Good morning, y'all. I hope y'all are doing well this fine April morning. Hopefully by now y'all have already seen how y'all have done on your Unit 10 exam. I will be sharing more information on your STC grade and your ECISD grade probably later on in this week. But now that we have the Unit 10 exam completely out of the way, now we get to focus on the AP section. And I feel like I need to tell y'all, even if you are not taking the AP exam, you still have to participate in the AP curriculum according to College Board. So everybody, whether you're taking the test or not, has to do this. So the first thing that I wanted to go over, let me adjust the camera. The first thing I wanted to go over was the sentence starters. Now, the sentence starters are going to be important because the AP exam is going to consist of one single DBQ with only 5 documents. This is easy doable, and I'm going to be showing y'all some rubrics and whatnot to help you with that. But today I only want to focus on the sentence starters. So one of the biggest things on the AP exam and for the DBQ is analyzing the documents. So if you look at the documents, I've went ahead and provided y'all with some sentence starters to help you get started. Those of y'all that took WHAP last year, where are my WHAP kids at? Oh, that's a lot of you. Y'all are familiar with how to do a DBQ. For those of you who didn't and never wrote a DBQ in class because reasons, this is where you're going to finally learn. So sentence starters are to help you. So when you get a document, you have to use HIPP. So that is historical context, intended audience, purpose, and point of view. And we're going to go through one of these. So historical context, that means what is going on at the time that the document was created. So I'm going to show you all some examples and walk you through it because you do have an assignment every single week that deals with that. So historical context, if you look here, during this time, and I'm going to highlight it right here, this one is the one that most use. During this time, at the time the document was written, this was an era of, so you could think of anything. So let's say the Declaration of Independence. During this time, what happened? The colonists were faced with strife. They were angry at the British policies. Salutary neglect had kicked in and then left. All of these are on there. So this was an era of is another useful one. This was an era of political, social, and economic unrest or what was happening at the time. So when the Declaration of Independence was written in 1776, had we already had the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, etc.? Yes, we had. So you can put what was happening at the time of the Declaration of Independence was the colonists were angry that they had to pay all of these taxes. They had to quarter soldiers. They were limited in what they could do. The Boston port was closed, etc. So that is context. What is happening at the time? So fast forward to the year 2040 when there's an AP exam about the pandemic of 2020, that what was going on at the time. People were in their homes, people were social distancing, people were using copious amounts of Germ-X, etc. So skip back to now. Now, if you go down, you'll see the intended audience. This one is also easy, but I have to warn you, if the document specifically says in a speech to Congress, in a letter to John Adams, in a speech to the people of Gettysburg, you cannot use it. If it is already in the document, you cannot use it. So this document was aimed at, let's look at the Gettysburg Address. The author was reaching out to. Who was the author reaching out to? So when Abraham Lincoln wrote the Gettysburg Address and he gave it to these people in 1963, who was he hoping to reach? It wasn't just the people that were there, it was the whole country telling them, we cannot stop halfway because we've come this far. And if we stop, then all of those men who died will have died in vain. So he was reaching out to people that were still unsure about the war. This was meant for, also follows along that vein, where it was meant for the people that were iffy about the war and the soldiers that were being called to go fight. If you scroll down to purpose, this one is, I don't see too many of these when I'm reading the DBQs, but these are, if you know the topic, then these are easy to do. The reason for this document, going back to the colonial times and the Constitution. Why was the Constitution written? It was to give a plan of government to the American people. So the reason for this document is to give a plan of government to the American people so that they had a set of laws to follow, so that all of the 13 states, and eventually 14 by the time it's ratified, all of them could have the documents, so that they could all have the same laws. So one state didn't have one law, the other state didn't have the other. Sorry, guys. I guess my whole family didn't realize I was doing this, and they're just like doing things and whatnot. Anyway, where was I? I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. The author clearly wanted to. So, of course, who wrote the US Constitution? James Madison. So, what did he clearly want to do? He wanted to give each state of the 14 states eventually, and eventually 50, of course, he wanted to give them government. He wanted to give them rules that every single person had to follow, not just some in Georgia, some in North Carolina, whatnot. The author wrote this in order to have a cohesive government. Again, it's kind of repetitive, but that was the purpose. The point of view is another one that you can use from the author's perspective. So let's think of another document. Anybody want to recommend a document? I'm getting all these alerts. Oh, I didn't do my attendance. My bad. What was I going to say? What document can we use? The Louisiana Purchase. How about that? The author felt that, well, the whole treaty says that we were buying Louisiana from France. So the author, from the author's perspective, that would have helped the United States in terms of, getting more land, new opportunities, getting Napoleon out of North America kind of thing. The author felt that. I guess Louisiana Purchase would have been a terrible one, but the author felt that we needed to have everything in writing so that we could have, I lost my train of thought. Ooh, the mail's being delivered. Cool, cool. I ordered new knitting needles. Okay. Look at Archie. Hey, say hi, Archie. Archie, look, say hi. Hi. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I read online that dogs make people happy, so there you go. Okay, so these are sentence starters. Again, if you're a WHAP genius, then you already know how to do this. But I want you to go ahead and look at this one. So this here has DBQ practice using documents in the essay. Document A is from the Worcester magazine to the citizens of the United States. Before we suffer this new constitution to be established, we ought to consider seriously what it contains and whether it is calculated to promote our happiness or whether, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, it is calculated to vest certain men with more power, deprive us of our liberties, and bring our land into lordships and lead us into vassalage and slavery, like the poor people of Holland, etc. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the year, 1788. So this here is giving an opinion on the Constitution. Hold on, I gotta pause it again. Okay, so going back to this one, there is a poor example and a really good example of purpose and analysis. So in the debate over the ratification of the Constitution, those opposed to ratification were called anti-federalists. Worcester magazine had stories written to support the anti-federalists. One article addressed to all Americans. Okay, so that one's pretty vague. But if you look at this one, in an article written for Worcester magazine, an anti-federalist tried to increase fears among Americans regarding how dangerous the Constitution was so that more people would oppose ratification. Anti-federalists were greatly concerned that federalists would use the Constitution to eventually take away power from the people and the states and give it to the president. So this is a really good example. Now, setting up context and analyzing the document. I'm not going to read through it all, but it's there. Now, I am not going to make you do this. But if you are taking the AP exam, then you can go ahead and do this on your own. But you don't have to do it. So going back to these sentence starters, are there any questions? Obviously, it's a recorded video, but if you do have questions, of course, you could message me on Remind. You could send me an email, or DeLuca, Archie. Hey, look, another animal. It's DeLuca. Hey, DeLuca. Say hi. Oh, Archie. Say hi. Say hi. Archie. Okay. Okay, so as I was saying, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me or ask me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I am at my computer almost all day knitting, so let me know. And it was really good seeing y'all again.